Bienvenidos a Cultura y Entretenimiento, el espacio de las plataformas digitales del Tiempo, donde le contamos todo sobre la música, cine, arte y gastronomía. Laura, ¿qué tenemos para este fin de semana?
Juan David, empezamos con la charla que sostuvo Ushi Levy con el cantante irlandés Hozier, con quien habló el miércoles justo antes de su concierto en el Movistar Arena acá en Bogotá, y esto fue lo que nos contó.
I find myself in parts of the world I never otherwise would travel to, you know, waking up in Bogotá and being able to play the music. Sincerely, it's like there's this weird thing that happens when like all your kind of dreams have kind of come true.
How do you feel being a man in this world where masculinity is being reshaped and it's not the same as it was before? Because before a man was supposed to be tough and hard, and now it's kind of being reshaped.
I see more, honestly, like this weird kind of distorted mirror of like what it is to be a man, like in digital spaces, you know. So yeah, I think there was a few years there where there seemed like an even, or like an open field for people for men to discover on their own terms what it meant to be a father, what it meant to be a man, what it meant to be to move from boyhood, or to experience boyhood differently, people raising boys slightly differently, you know, to be more open with their feelings, you know, to express their feelings, not be punished for having them, not be ostracized for having them. I've noticed in the last few years, and very, very recently, like even in the last few months, it's kind of accelerated, watching a digital algorithm who knows that I'm a man hand me things that it thinks I should resonate with. That spooks me a little bit. So it's more in the last year or two seeing a pushback, or seeing this story being told to young men of who they need to be or who they should be, you know, looking essentially to exploit them or sell them something or turn them into I don't know, like this version of manhood that's like trapped in a pathology that thinks of itself as holding the monopoly on suffering and the monopoly of loneliness, and weaponizes that into trying to control other people, you know, control women, make things in service to them. That spooks me. To me, that's the emotional experience of fascism, nearly, that is being sold to young men right now. So
I know you have an issue with fame and being famous, and I know it's not something that you were not looking to be a star. It just happened because you were doing your thing. So I'm guessing there are moments where you kind of lose it. What do you do when you get lost, when you just do not know what you want to do or where you want to be?
I think it's more that on the basis of being a musician, if people know me on the basis of the work that I make, great. I think engaging with elements of fame for fame's sake, or elements of like public visibility for the sake of public visibility, it just feels kind of a little bit unnatural to me, and I have never found that to be. There's this sharing with people again through the lenses and the distortions of social media, or the kind of conceits of it. Never feels more connected. You don't actually. I don't think. All of these things have made us feel more connected truly, or actually. But for me, I just try to remind myself that, I don't know, I have my family, I have my friends, I have people who are dear to me, and the community that I love. So yeah, if things fly at you that feel out of step with who you are, it's just to settle back into that. And I try to remain committed to just the work, you know. The work is what's important.
What has surprised you the most about this career?
What surprised me the most about this career? I don't know. I mean, there's a funny thing that kind of happens when and I think this would be anybody who arrives at points of success that they had hoped for themselves, or they, you know, I feel like one of the luckiest person I know. You know, I got to make songs. I wanted to write music, and people have resonated with that music, and so there's moments where I arrive and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I get to do this for a living. I find myself in parts of the world I never otherwise would travel to, you know, waking up in Bogotá and being able to play the music. Sincerely, like, it's like there's this weird thing that happens when like all your kind of dreams have kind of come true, and that has I think that has surprised me that I'm still being able to do this and find ways of navigating this career and this life and artistically in a way that, I don't know, it's a gift, I think, being an artist, because you always can surprise yourself and you always have access to make work that feels new and feels fresh and is surprising.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure, thank you.
Juan David, ¿qué tenemos para cine este fin de semana?
Laura, le cuento que Ushi Levy habló con los actores que hacen parte de la película de Lilo y Stitch, que se estrenó el día jueves 22 de mayo. Esto nos contaron.
Into it. The first Lilo and Stitch was showcased over 20 years ago, and the world has changed. We had a pandemic in the middle. We have new governments. How do you feel Lilo and Stitch's story applies to the world today?
Well, you're talking about family, and our movie is about family, and I think all countries are made up of family. So we're struggling as a family in our country right now, and hopefully something as small and, you know, insignificant, quote unquote, as a movie will get people to realize we need each other. Yeah. We need each other. You can't make it without your family.
I think a movie that has such heart and such aloha spirit, it reminds people to love each other, to hold on to each other and hold that precious. And that's what I love about Lilo and Stitch then and now, that's still at the heart of it, is to love your family, whoever they are, however you put them together, whether you're related by blood or not. It's a beautiful story, and I think a lot of people identify with it 20 years ago and today.
And traditionally, artists really are at the forefront of changing directions with countries and with movements. So I think something, you know, more films like this that have a heart are what's needed.
Love. We need more love.
So Tia, how did playing nanny shape you to play this role?
I, as a woman, have evolved from the nanny part of my life, being a teenager and bumbling my way through things and, you know, generally screwing up and questioning myself. And now, decades later, I feel more in a place where I can advocate for the younger women and say, trust in yourself, believe that you have all the gifts within you to do this. And I spoke to Sydney early on when she was having questions about playing the role. And I said, you are a powerhouse. You have it all within you. Just be you and trust in you and hold your head high. And she's a tremendous nanny. So I'm really happy that I got to see this evolution.
Bernie, what was your relationship to Lilo and Stitch before being a part of it?
The first movie?
Yeah.
Really none, because my children were little and Stitch scared them. when it first came out. So I tried because they watch all the animated movies. So here's another great one that maybe you can sit in front of it and watch it while we're driving in the back of the car. So, nah.
But they were like 2, right? They were little.
They were 2, 3. It was too much for them. So we never really got back to it. So because they didn't watch it, I didn't watch it because we watch what they watch. Parents do. So it's such a pleasure to be invited in to the world, knowing that they wouldn't let me in earlier.
So I only have time for one more question, and I want to ask the both of you, because you've done voice acting, both of you. Is it easier or harder to do a movie only with your voice or as a complete actor?
Great question.
I mean, I think like, there's more of you that you have to have available, your physicality, your, showing up every day for, months at a time or whatever, and as well as your voice. So, I mean, obviously, I think live action is more involved and more difficult but it's a joy. So any of it's a joy for me. I'm just happy to be invited to the party, and I love what I do for a living, so.
Everything is challenging. Everything is, the people who are really, really good at voice acting and voiceovers, they transport you. Everybody can't do it. Everybody can't be in front of the camera. They freeze. So it's all challenging, and it takes different parts of ourselves to do. So we're just blessed, as Tia said, to be able to do it.
Laura, ¿a usted le gustan los museos?
Me gustan, Juan David, y le cuento que Julio César Guzmán habló con el documentalista Phil Grabsky, que trae el mundo de los museos, que es fascinante, a las pantallas grandes de Cine Colombia.
It feels like a lifetime's work. So I've been making documentaries for 40 years, but the exhibition on screen cinema series has been going now for about 15 or 16 years. These particular 5 films, before COVID, our films were doing very well in Colombia. We had a very strong audience, very loyal audience. Then COVID arrived in 2020, and that interrupted things. One of the 5 films, Raphael, was made in 2020, and it's a superb film. And finally, now we have the chance to release it in Colombia. All of the films take an enormous amount of work, but we love what we do. We love storytelling with some of the greatest art that humankind has ever produced. We're coming back with 5 films. We made a film based on the biggest exhibition of Raphael ever, on his 500th anniversary. Spectacular works. It really helps you to understand why he is considered to be as great as Leonardo and Michelangelo. And then there is also a film about Michelangelo, arguably, for some, the greatest artist of all time. Certainly, I would argue, one of the greatest sculptors of all time. Remarkable story. Another rival, if you like, for the greatest artist, certainly out of Western Europe, of all time, is Vincent van Gogh. We have a film called Van Gogh, Poets and Lovers. This was a collaboration with the National Gallery in London. It is their most successful ticketed exhibition ever. And you think how many exhibitions the National Gallery in London had. It was extraordinarily successful, and we had the exclusive access to make a film about the exhibition and therefore about Van Gogh. And to once again try to make people realize that Van Gogh, his paintings are not expressions of his mental health. They are expressions of a man who was extremely passionate about art, extremely well-read and educated, and a master storyteller. He's trying to tell you stories with every painting. The 4th film of the 5 is another film at the National Gallery, and one that I'm very proud of and has had remarkable audience reaction, because we decided not to make a film with curators and art historians, but with the people who actually work at the National Gallery, the people who are security guards or work behind the scenes in the offices or whatever it might be. What are their favourite paintings and why? And I was so moved and impressed with how articulate they are, their choices, some of which are paintings you'll know, many of which are paintings you won't know. And each of them gives additional insight into those paintings But what's so striking is how people bring their own lives, their own biography, to their choice of their favorite painting. It's a really powerful, moving film with a few celebrities who have interest in art thrown in. And it was also the occasion of the 200th anniversary of the National Gallery. So, and the last one of the 5, although it might not be in this order when they're shown in Colombia, is called Dawn of Impressionism, Paris 1874. It's a really interesting film because it asks, the Impressionists are the world's favorite art movement. Monet, Renoir, Degas, etc. Well, what we ask in the film is why Paris, why 1874, and why these individuals? And it's really, if you don't understand the context, what else is happening in Paris at that time, why they wanted to have their own show, even though it was so unsuccessful, but nevertheless, it was the beginning, if you like, of the Impressionist movement. It's a fascinating film. And the exhibition, which we based it on, was in Paris and in the National Gallery of Art, Washington. So a very successful film for us and a really interesting subject. We've managed to build a network of 60 countries showing our films in the cinema. From India to Japan to all over. We're just about to start in China. But until COVID, one of the top 10 countries, alongside France, Germany, England, Australia, United States, Canada, was Colombia. And I absolutely loved that. I used to get messages from people coming out of the cinema in places like Medellin. Now, to me, I only had one impression of Medellin, and that was, from what I read in newspapers or watching drama. And then I'd get a nice email from somebody saying, I've just come out of the cinema, I've just seen your film about Claude Monet. The cinema was absolutely full. Thank you so much for bringing this to Medellin. I can't tell you how inspirational and how gratifying that is for me. Because it shows one absolutely key thing, which is that art is universal. Because the human experience is universal. Colombians, there'll be certain traits that might be different, but essentially, a Colombian is exactly the same as a Briton. And, those countries that seek to suggest there are differences, we're all essentially the same. Of course we are. And art can reflect that. I mean, I wish, we self-fund our films, so it's difficult for us to choose artists that most of my countries have not heard of. But I hope one day I can find some topic, some way of looking at Latin American art. I have tried. I guess the nearest we got was in Mexico with Frida Kahlo. But anyway, I really do encourage anybody in Colombia. One, because these are very entertaining films. The cinema is the best place to see them. Allow yourself 90 minutes. I mean, you're in the company of some of the greatest artists in human history. You cannot be too busy to ignore that, to avoid that. You're going to be inspired. You're going to be entertained. The reason these artists are so fabulously popular is because their storytelling resonates with us today. What a Michelangelo is telling you, or a Raphael is showing you, is the same today as it was 500 years ago, more or less. And I think that's fascinating. And I think that I know the audience reaction to the films is so strong. I know that millions of people will go and see the latest Mission Impossible, where 100 people will die, and it'll be very exciting because Tom Cruise will be hanging off a helicopter. I get that. But actually, you'll learn more about humanity and about yourself, and in fact, in some ways come out feeling better about everything if you come and see one of our films, I have to tell you.
Juan David, ¿qué tenemos para música este fin de semana?
Laura, le cuento que Olga Lucía Vives, ex integrante de Ventino y la voz oficial de Mirabel en la película Encanto, se lanza como solista con su nuevo sencillo Veneno, una canción que habla de las relaciones tóxicas. Esto nos dijo.
Cada canción que he hecho son cartas que nunca envié. Acá estoy sanando una experiencia muy tóxica y luego va a salir una canción en donde estoy sanando cosas que mi exnovio dijo de mí. Veneno es una canción que viene como a invitar a las personas a que no se dejen intoxicar por la gente tóxica de su vida, que no se enfermen con ese veneno, porque a mí me pasó que físicamente me sentía muy mal al estar cerca de una persona y no me daba cuenta que era por eso. Entonces por eso escribí la canción, pero yo no soy una persona dramática que se pone a lamentarse, entonces la canción es movida, es alegre e invita a las personas como a decirle al tóxico, mira, llévate ese veneno por otra parte, que aquí no es, no me toques en la puerta porque no te voy a abrir, ya no eres parte de mi vida, chao. Es como cuando uno ya vivió ese momento difícil, esa tusa, ese dolor. También porque muchas personas creen que el amor es sufrir y luchar y no, el amor es pasarla rico. Y a veces las personas tienen ojos de mundo Disney, enamorado, perfecto, y no ven las cosas malas. Desde la estética hasta el sonido quería hacer algo diferente. Esa es una canción que en sí bien es pop y tiene esos matices disco. También uso samples de salsa y en la música que viene estoy usando muchos elementos de la música tropical latinoamericana, que salsa, que vallenato, que merengue. Les voy a cantar el coro de la canción que creo que tiene el mensaje más contundente y dice: llévate tu veneno a otra parte, llévate tu ego lejos de aquí, llévate mis ganas de tocarte antes que diga que sí. Yo siento que he cambiado muchísimo en general estos últimos años y son cambios buenos porque realmente me conozco más a mí como persona, entiendo más lo que quiero, para dónde quiero ir. Musicalmente ya sé quién soy y antes no lo sabía, entonces todos los cambios han sido bonitos. La gente de Disney espectacular conmigo y conocí otro tipo de industria que antes no conocía. Por ejemplo, yo juraba que uno le mandaban un guión y uno se lo aprendía, o que les mandaban las canciones y uno se lo aprendía. No, o sea, tú no sabes nada. Cuando tú llegas a grabar te muestran las canciones frase por frase y nunca las escuchas completas hasta que sale la película, y así todo es súper confidencial, entonces también era muy misterioso y me encantó haber vivido esa experiencia. Yo le doy voz al personaje porque también como es el doblaje, ya viene de una voz en inglés y yo tengo más o menos que tomar esa voz como referente, como ejemplo, pero hacerlo a la manera colombiana, latinoamericana. Entonces sí es un poco crear una identidad, pero a medias porque ya está creada. A ver, yo considero en este momento, por mi experiencia, que a mí me parece más fácil escribir una canción que darle vida a un personaje. Amo hacer las dos cosas, pero porque una me parece más fácil que otra, porque una la he hecho más. Entonces yo llevo componiendo muchos años, entonces creo que sería más fácil. Yo siempre compongo en equipo. A mí me gusta tener 1 o 2 amigos conmigo para entre todos dar ideas y que la mejor es la que quede. Y cuando yo escribía para el grupo, y era diferente porque no solamente me tenía que gustar a mí, le tenía que gustar a más personas, le tenía que gustar a la disquera, le tenía que gustar al manager, y en este momento siento que yo soy la cabeza de mi proyecto. Entonces creo que mi equipo también confía y me escucha mucho, entonces en ese aspecto sí es bastante diferente, como que yo estoy también escribiendo lo que a mí me gusta y estoy pensando en mí súper individual, súper personal, y antes tenía que pensar como en algo más genérico, entonces sí es una experiencia diferente. En este momento es mi esencia, de hecho con mi proyecto musical quería hacer algo distinto a Ventino porque ya después de 10 años de hacer las cosas de una manera uno también quiere como novedad. Entonces quería verme diferente, sonar diferente, entonces yo creo que sí estoy haciendo todo diferente, es como mi palabra, literal, todo diferente. Yo desde que empecé el proceso de exploración y de encontrarme musicalmente ya he escrito más de 70 canciones. Obviamente no las 70 van a salir, sino las mejores, pero ya tengo canciones grabadas listas, ya tengo más videoclips listos. Entonces no se preocupen que lo que hay es música, no quiero que la gente se quede mucho tiempo sin escuchar algo nuevo, porque estoy en la fase de que me conozcan realmente quién soy por fuera de Encanto, por fuera de novelas, por fuera del grupo. este año no va a haber ningún concierto propio, pero sí va a haber presentaciones. Entonces todo eso lo estaré comunicando en redes sociales, así como @Olga Lucía Vives en todos lados. Hola, yo soy Olga Lucía y quiero invitarlos a todos a que escuchen mi nueva canción Veneno, y les quiero decir también que si ustedes sueñan con ser artistas, cantantes, pintores, lo que ustedes quieran, soñar no tiene precio y no tiene límites, así que arriésguense y no se dejen guiar por el miedo.
En el canal de YouTube del Tiempo encontrarán noticias de Colombia y el mundo, también series originales, documentales y reportes de nuestros corresponsales. Suscríbase y active la campanita.